This is Dave at TitleSearch.com. Foreclosure and distressed property investing has a lot of advantages, but there's a lot of different strategies which an investor can use to go about it. First of all, are you going after it in terms of an auction process or a short sale process? The first thing to start is to analyze potential deals. As a new investor, you may want to look at which strategy is going to fit your own needs. One way to do this is to analyze prior deals or done deals. The way you might do that is to go back in history, look at properties that were auctioned or sold maybe 10 months ago. Look at each one of those properties, maybe run a historical title search on that property, maybe look at comparable sales at that time to see what that property appeared to be worth 10 months ago. Then follow it through that whole process. Who bought it? How was it sold? Was it fixed up? Were there any permits pulled? And you can look and see what the success of that property was based on what strategy you may be considering using 10 months ago. The next thing is, how do you get leads? How do you find properties that are available for purchase? An easy way to do it is to look at properties that are at auction. The downside is every other investor has that same option and can bid on those properties. You can create more of an advantage for yourself by finding ways to minimize liens on those properties, to locate properties that maybe have higher potential for profit from those auction properties. Another way is to make your own lead list, and that could come from researching land records, researching prior to default type properties that might be have a higher probability of going into default, and getting a hold of those owners before they actually go into default. The next thing is to maximize your advantage of looking at what your end strategy is, your exit strategy. Are you going to rent these properties? And if that's the case, you want to make sure that all of the rental provisions and requirements are going to be met. Look at your title search to see what the zoning is of that property, what the history is. Are there any code violations? Are there any ADA requirements for access? Are there smoke alarms? Some states, or most of them do, have requirements for fire and smoke detection. Are there any maybe historical problems with lead paint or asbestos? Are there any violations? Have there been any tickets written to the owners for violations of zoning or for any other risk at the property? You can also check the homeowners association on a property to see if there's any judgments, not against the property owner, but also against the HOA itself. If you're buying a property in an HOA neighborhood, you want to look at the health of that HOA. If they're not properly funding their budget or making reserves for needed repairs, that may come to be distributed as a special assessment to owners in the future. So you want to look at any judgments against the HOA, any non-paid items that the HOA might be responsible for later. So an investor strategy, looking at it in advance, can be assisted by looking at prior deals, what properties have been sold in the last year.